Hey y'all, welcome to part 2 of my garden planning and my seed planning and organization for the whole year for the Potager Garden. If you didn't catch part 1, go check it out first as we went through all of my seed order, all my seeds that I got in. You can see them spread out all over this table here. We went through all of those seeds, talked about the different varieties and plants that I'm going to be growing this year. Y'all go check it out first and then come back and watch part 2 as we talk about the plan and I go over with y'all how I organize all of this. Okay, now that we've looked at my seed order and talked about all the different things that I'm going to be growing this year, I had a few of you guys mention and suggest that you would like to see how I go about ordering my seeds, like my process. So the first thing is around December and January, I get these seed catalogs and I just start going through them. I just look through them, and anything that catches my eye that I want to try to grow or that I normally always grow that I think in my head I might be out of that seed. And then things that I want to try, I just take my sticky notes, and as I'm going through a catalog, I just rip off a sticky note and I put on that page. And I just sit and go through these catalogs and just dream of all the things that I want to try and grow and do. And first, look at all these sticky notes. I mean, first of all, I don't have a garden space big enough to grow all of these things. And I've got a big garden. Second of all, this adds up to a whole lot of money. When you're looking at seed packets that are at least $3 a pack, this adds up to a whole lot of money. And this is just one catalog. This isn't the other companies. But around December time, I just love to curl up by the fire or on the porch or wherever and just go through my seed catalogs and just dream. Or like Haas Tools, they don't really have a seed catalog, so I'll go online and I'll just put things in my shopping cart as I see that I like them. So after I've sat and dreamed and went through catalogs and marked all these lovely things, wooed over all the pages, first thing you gotta do is you gotta get your last frost dates. And if you're doing your whole plan for the year, you gotta get your first frost date. And then in between those two frost dates, that's your growing period. That's how many growing days you have and when you can grow what. So once I've determined my first frost dates and my last frost dates, then I get my garden plan that I've drawn up. I start out with a plan, which is always great to start out with a plan. It gives you an idea of where to plant what, how to rotate things. But throughout the process of planting and the different seasons, I'll just start popping things in place. Once I get all my bases in, like I know my potatoes are going in bed number 2, once I get all those things done and put where I want them to be, things that I know I'm going to be rotating, any empty spaces I have or just things that I decide I'm going to start growing that I wasn't really planning on, I'll just start popping in. But for the most part, my plan is laid out where I know the staples of what I'm going to plant. I know where they're going to be, like tomatoes, peppers. I know which bed my sweet potatoes are going to be in. I know which bed my peppers are going to be in, my okra, that kind of thing. And then I'll just add things to the beds as I can, like herbs, flowers, whatever. But I have my basic plan. So then I look at my plan and I figure out the things that I know I want to plant. And then I go to my seed boxes that I showed y'all earlier. And and I pull out any seeds that I have. Anything in my inventory that I have, I go ahead and pull those out. It's actually later this evening, y'all. I was working on editing this video and I realized I had left something out. So after I go through my seed inventory of the seeds that I have, and I've pulled out those that I want to use for the year, then I go back to my seed catalogs and my online shopping carts where I had done all of my dreaming and selecting, and I go back through those and I eliminate anything off of that list that I already have. And then I go through and I decide what do I need, what did I not have that I most definitely need, and I order those. And then I pick out the new things that I want to try, or the things that other friends or other people have suggested that I really wanted to give a try. So then I place my seed order. I'll order all the things that I always grow that I'm out of first. That's my priority first. And then whatever's left within my budget, I'll order the new things that I want to try. And it's nowhere near what I started out with, because then I was just dreaming. Now I'm locking down my plan and what I'm going to grow, and I'm sticking to my seed budget. Then I start working on my seed plan for the year, which is right here. And in this little box, this is my little system that I've developed that works for me. And it works really well for me. I did a video about this a couple of years ago as I was developing this idea. And I did a video for you guys and showed you exactly how I did it and how I created this. So y'all can go check that out, because I'm just going to briefly go over this today. In my little seed plan for the year, I have it organized by sow indoors, and then back here, sow in ground. And I have them color coded so that just quickly I can see what's what. So sow indoors, then I have January, February, March, April, May, all the way through December. And then I have sow in ground, March, April, May, September, October. I have my months. Now, I have a pretty long growing season here in Alabama. Okay, so on each card, like February here, I've got on here what I need to be sowing indoors in middle of February, what I need to be sowing indoors late February. And I do this also according to succession planting in my garden. So like I might be sowing some spinach now, but I might sow some more spinach in March. And I've just got it mapped out according to my succession plan so that I can have spinach growing as long as I possibly can. So this is what I should be sowing indoors in the middle of February. That's what I should be sowing indoors late February. And I've got them all wrote down. So then I take my seeds either from my inventory or the seeds that I ordered, and I put them in this box according to what's wrote on my card there. And then I've got this whole seed plan for the whole year that keeps me on target as to when to be sowing what, so that I can grow the maximum amount of food that I can throughout my whole entire growing season. So also what I do is I get my calendar, my day runner, I look on my box, and like February, I need to be sowing seeds in mid-February and late February. So on my calendar, I have wrote down February the 11th to sow seeds, February 18th sow seeds, and February 25th sow seeds. This is something that I look at every single day. Like, my life is in this book. I look at it every single day. So I know that I need to be sowing seeds right around this day, according to my plan in my seed box. The seeds that I store in this chest here, my bulk seeds, my seeds I've saved, seeds like that, they're not nice little seed packets, and they can't fit in my storage box, my little planner box for the whole year, my seed plan for the whole year. When it's time to do these peas or beans or sunflowers or whatever, I get these seeds And then I have this little cool thing. It's an old suitcase thing. I'm sure a lot of you recognize these. This was my mother-in-law's. She gave it to me. But this little suitcase trunk. And I'll put those seeds in this. And when it's time to like plant corn, I'll get the seeds out of my chest. I'll put them in my little suitcase thing here. And this is what goes to the garden with me. Okay, so my seeds that I save are my bulk seeds, the ones that I showed you in my piece of furniture back there. The way I do those is like, most all of those are seeds that you're just gonna direct sow in ground. So they're back here. And then like, let's just look for instance, like in April, on my card here, I've got wrote, mid-April, I need to be sowing pole beans and bush beans. So I know that in April, and in April, I just go back and I get my bush beans, my pole beans, put them in my little suitcase, go outside, and that's when I sow those. So this little plan seems complicated. It seems like a lot of work, and really it does require some work, like to get all this organized and to do all this and set all this up. It does require a little bit of work, but it's worth it because like all year long, from now until next January, I don't have to worry about remembering things, you know, looking up stuff like when do I need to sow my pumpkins, looking up things like that. I don't have to do all that. All the thinking, all the planning, the whole strategy is done for me, and it's in this little box right here and on my calendar. And all I have to do is just go to my box or my calendar, and I know exactly when to do what for the whole year. So it does require some time. It does require some work, especially in the beginning if you're setting this little system up. That requires a little bit of time and figuring things out. But once you do it, you've got it. And you've got the bulk of your thinking work done for you for the whole year. And then it's just a matter of looking at it and going and doing it and planting your seeds and planting your garden. But I really, really love this little system I've developed. It works really, really well for me, especially since I have such a long growing season. I mean, I can start planting things in February, and I can grow food like spring, summer, fall, on into winter. I can be growing food. And this just makes it so much easier for me. Yes, it requires the work up front in January. February, this is what I do. I get myself organized. But the thinking's done for me. It just makes me so much more productive. It makes my garden much more productive. It makes the garden season more enjoyable. Okay, so how do I know what to write on these cards? Like, how do I know that I should be sowing watermelon seed indoors in the middle of February to get them in the ground in time? How do I know that? Well, what you have to do, this is the part that takes the most work and effort and thinking. But let's look at this watermelon seed by M.I. Gardner. M.I. Gardner is another person that I order seeds from. He's really a cool guy. He's got his own YouTube channel. Y'all can go check it out. Very knowledgeable, has a great little seed company, and he's very affordable. So y'all go check him out too, M.I. Gardner. First thing you gotta do is you've got to know your last frost date or your first frost date. Mine is like November. I wrote it down. You can go look that up on Google. You can look it up under Farmer's Almanac, or just type in Google, just type in what is the last frost date for Birmingham, Alabama, or wherever your city is in your state. And it'll pull it up, and then you just type in your city and your state, your zip code, and it'll tell you when your estimated last and first frost dates are. So my estimated last frost date is, I got it wrote down in my little trusty calendar here, March 25th. That's my estimated last frost date for this year. Now, I don't stick to that too hard because I cannot remember when we did not have a late frost for Easter. And this is something that my grandfather, any old timers that's taught me anything I know about gardening, they've always said, count on having a frost Easter. My two sweet neighbors back in Clanton, when I first started gardening, Mr. Smitherman and Mr. Williams, they used to always tell me that. Girl, don't put your tomatoes in the ground till after Easter. We're gonna have a frost. And we always have. We've always had a frost Easter. Like, we can have 70 and 80 degrees leading up to it, and everything starts blooming and budding, and then Easter pops up, Good Friday, and it's freezing cold outside, and we have a freeze. Just always happens. So I don't put my tomatoes in the ground till after Easter. But March 25th is my estimated last frost date. So what you do, you figure that out. And then this says, like this packet says, start indoors 3 to 4 weeks before your last frost. So if I look at my last frost date, which is March 25th, right here. Let's look at it together. Let's see, can you see? March 25th. I'm gonna count back 3 to 4 weeks. So that would be 1, 2, 3. And then I'm gonna go ahead and count back my 4th week, which puts me at the end of February. And then on my little card here, let's see, right here, I've got wrote on here, late February, the latter part of February, to sow my watermelon seeds. You see down at the bottom. So I've got that wrote on this card, and I've got my seed in here. So then I know when I'm looking at my day runner that week of February, I see on here February 25th, it says I need to sow seeds. So I go to my little box and I look at February and I see what seeds I need to be sowing the last part of February. I pull those out and I get them started. This is the part that takes the longest time and the most thinking and energy, is filling out this little card right here of when to sow what. But once you've got that done, you've pretty much got it done from now on. Like, that's what I've found anyway, because my first and last frost dates are pretty much the same every year. They may vary a little bit by a week or two, but for the most part, they're pretty much the same last frost date and the same first frost date every year. So within just a couple of weeks, we're pretty much the same every year. So once you've figured this out on the things that you know you're always going to grow every year, you've pretty much got it. Now, some varieties may differ a little bit. Like, you may have one watermelon that you can harvest quicker. You know, like one may be a 90-day, one may be 100 and something day, you know, before you harvest. And that could change your dates a little bit about when you should be sowing them. Any of the new things that I get that I'm trying, like my seed order here, like this Abe Lincoln tomatoes new. So I'll check my dates on this and see when I should sow this and make sure it lines up. And it does. It lines up with my other tomatoes as to when I should be sowing the seed indoors. And before I put this in place, anything new, I'll make sure it lines up with the time I should be sowing it, and then I'll pop it in place. So once you've done the hard part right here and figured out when to sow what, you've pretty much got your job done for you. The hard work's done. And then it's just a matter of ordering your seed, popping them in place, and being ready to go for the year. Okay, I hope that this has not confused anybody too much or made this too complicated. I hope that this really has helped you to be able to get your seed plan together and to just make things easier and more organized and more productive and more enjoyable throughout the whole year. That's my goal in this for me, and I hope that this works out for you guys as well too. Now, as far as my garden plan, this is my garden plan, and this is probably going to be a whole nother video on itself. I've got a few videos that I've done in the past about how I created this garden plan. This is my garden plan for the Potager Garden for the whole year. And it's gonna kind of be hard probably for you guys to see this too good, but this is all the garden beds that's in the Potager Garden. bed 1, 2, 3, 4, so on. And then within each bed, I've wrote on here what I'm gonna be planting in that bed in spring, summer, fall, and winter. For the whole year, I've got it wrote down. So from having this plan for the whole year of what I've put in the garden, then next year when I get ready to plant that garden, these beds will be rotated. So I'll know that the potatoes, the white potatoes or sweet potatoes, can't go in this bed next year. They're gonna have to be rotated and go in a different bed next year. So that's how I keep up with rotating my crop. Plus, this helps me keep things mapped out as to what I'm planting in the garden throughout the whole year. Now I take from that plan and I put it in my garden journal. Now this is one of my plans for the year, is to create the perfect garden journal. There's so many different garden journals out there. And what I found is just like, a lot of them have pages in there that I don't even use. Like it's just a lot of stuff that I don't need, that I don't record, that I don't need. I just want a basic garden journal to record what I need to record and to do what I need it to do, the purpose that I need it for. And I've tried everything. I've got all kinds of garden journals. Let me just show you a few of my garden journals. Okay, you guys, here's a few of my garden journals over the years. Got quite a few. This is my garden journal from last year. It's just a pretty notebook I found at Books A Million or somewhere. And I've just got all my beds laid out in here, what I did, all my notes, different things wrote down, my plans. And the pages of this is full. So I had to create a new garden journal for this year. And in doing this, I've decided I'm gonna make it my goal to create a beautiful garden journal that is just super functionable. That's my goal. Now this is an old one. I had this one from a long time ago and it's beautiful and I loved it. This was probably like my first garden journal maybe, but I loved it. You know, I did. I enjoyed doing this. I didn't know a whole lot about gardening. I didn't fill out a lot of pages, but I did use it for certain things. So this was good as a first journal because I didn't know what I was doing. But still, I had a lot of pages I didn't even use. Okay, now this is more of like a scrapbook type journal that I did one year. And I just called it Mom's Garden. And mostly it's just pictures of food that we grew and flowers and herbs. And I mean, it's mostly just like pictures. And that was my first greenhouse that Jean built me in Clanton. And, you know, just mostly this journal was just pictures with a few stories, but like not a lot of record keeping going on in it. All right, I've got this journal, which is like a garden type journal, scrapbook of when we first bought the farm and our story. And this is just mostly a lot of pictures, a whole lot of writing and words telling our story and the journey. And I just painted the cover of it. And then I got this one that I really decorated up good. Painted it, added ribbons, embellishments, made it all beautiful. And then this is just, you know, the farm journey, telling the story, all the different things we did, our first honey harvest, all that kind of stuff. Which I love this journal. I love these journals of our farm story. When we first bought our land, developing it, everything we did, I love it. They're beautiful. And then I've got this one. This is more of our farm journey when we built the chicken coop. You know, just different things. The worm bin that we made, when we made it, how we did it. So I kind of did those like that. Then as the Potager Garden developed and it got bigger and I wanted to do the crop rotation and keep up with all of that, then I needed for it to be more of a record keeping style journal or garden journal. And I don't like this. I don't like this binder thing and this kind of thing. I don't like that because it's so boring. Like, it's so bookkeeper work, you know? It's so, I don't even know the right word, but it's not beautiful and it's not fun and creative. It's just like boring. But I need it to be more of a record keeping type journal. That's what I need it to be. So my goal and what I'm trying to do is to be able to create a beautiful garden journal that's not in a binder, but maybe it's more something like this, something beautiful like this, but it has rings inside of it so that you can add to it. That's the big thing, is being able to add to it. Because like in this journal from last year, see, I really can't add anything to that. And I've got like my plans in here, but then every year I have to redraw this whole bed again, all over again. Whereas I could just make a copy of the base plan and put it in the binder, and then that's less work I have to do every year. So anyway, long story is I'm trying to create a journal, a garden journal for the potager. But I want to be able to create something that's going to be a beautiful, beautiful garden journal that holds all the pages within it that I need to keep, the records that I need to keep, and the information that I need to be in it. So like back here in the back of this one, I've got my companion planting, what works well with what, who doesn't like who, that kind of thing. So I've got those notes in here. So any notes that I need on a constant basis when I'm working in the garden needs to be in this book as well. This basically is just like my rough draft. This is my mock. This is how I'm gonna do my journal this year in creating the perfect journal. I got a lot of criteria I want in this garden journal that I'm going to create the perfect garden journal. If you guys have any ideas or suggestions of what you find to be most valuable in a garden journal, put it in the comments below. Because like I said, I'm trying to create the perfect garden journal that anybody and everybody could use. And any suggestions that you have as a gardener would be most helpful in creating this. Okay, so back to what we're doing here. So I take my garden journal, and I've got mine divided up in like spring, summer, and fall in my growing seasons. And in my journal here, I've got my plan for that bed. So this is garden bed number 1, mapped out here. And then over here, I've got a spot for notes. Now at the top of the notes, you can see where I've wrote down some things up at the top. Well, those are things that I'm gonna be planting in that bed in spring. And I got those from right here off of my plan. So I just took that and I wrote it down in my journal on the top of my page, so that when I get ready to plant my garden, all I've got to do is have my journal out there, and I see at the top of my notes here where garden bed number 1 spring, I see right there what's going to be going in that bed. Now when I get out there and I start planting these things in my bed, then I just take freedom in the design. That's one thing I love about the way I have my garden layout, is I can lay it out different every season. I can have different designs, I can have different patterns, I can have cabbages going in a semicircle, and I can have lettuce going down a row, I can have broccoli going down diagonally. You know, I can do whatever I want to do in that blank canvas of space in that bed with the plants that I've decided to put there. So I like having that freedom to design those beds as I want to per season as to what I'm growing. But at least I have my plan together as to what needs to go in that bed so that I can keep my crop rotation in order. Okay, I know that was a lot, And it was probably, like I said, a little too intense for some people. But I hope that you got some good nuggets of information and tips and tricks from how I do my garden plan and my garden layout and strategy for the whole year. I hope that this helps you in your garden plan for the year. Thank you guys so much for joining me today as we go through all of my seeds and what I'm going to be planting for this year, going over the garden plan, talking about garden journaling, all my favorite things. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. I hope this has helped y'all. I hope you guys are getting ready and getting prepared for the garden for this next year. Happy gardening. I'll catch y'all in the next video.